back, you guys, to Choking Hazard. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be talking about Fire Force. And this is not really going to be a review. It is more of like a first impressions because the show isn't done yet. It's only been about 2 seasons. I forget how many episodes. I didn't count the episodes when I was watching them, so sorry about that. But I'll just go ahead and give you my impressions. It should be a short video. I do kind of ramble on a lot, but let me go ahead and just dive right into it. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into the story real quick. Basically, the story is about a apocalyptic event that ends up torching most of the world. And during this Wait, maybe I need to turn off my fan real quick. Give me a second. Alright, there we go. Well, anyways, consider we're talking about Fire Force, I might as well make the room a little hotter by turning off my fan. But anyways, the apocalyptic event happens and torches a bunch of the planet, and out of this comes the Fire Force and Infernals. So the Fire Force are a group of people who got bestowed powers from this apocalyptic event, and they all have fire powers. The other people are called Infernals, which are these kind of brain-dead zombie type of creatures that also have fire powers. How they are created is they basically just spontaneously combust, and people just turn on fire. They'll become these demons. And guess what? Who are you gonna call? You gotta call the Fire Force, have them take those bastards out, and take the fire out and clean up everything afterwards. So they're kind of the force to fight the supervillain within the show. Now, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. Basically, when this big apocalyptic... I can't say apocalyptic too many times in a row. This big apocalyptic event that happens, it kind of turns everyone a little bit religious because these demons, the Infernals, they look like demons. They're all fiery, they look like monsters or whatever, and it torches the whole planet. So these Fire Force people are kind of religious. They almost seem like paladins, like in like medieval times or whatever. They have the crosses everywhere. There's nuns. They're like a religious group. The head people are like popes, I guess you could say. So there's kind of like an interesting dynamic between like the Fire Force being like a military kind of group that fight demons or whatever, as well as being a part of the church, which it's just kind of, it's an interesting thing, and it's also visually kind of interesting because, you know, there's people praying while they're fighting these demons. It has that kind of cool atmosphere to it. So the mystery within the show is basically that they're these Infernals that are combusting, you know, people just kind of combust and turn on fire and start attacking people, and they want to know where it's coming from, like why that happens, why people have fire powers, and that's kind of the mystery within the show. And it's an alright mystery. I mean, it's neither here nor there for me, and they don't really make it so compelling for me to find out. It just kind of, like, to be honest with you, I'd rather them not find out and then just fight demons the whole time, because that's where all the fun comes into the show. So, I mean, it's whatever. Now, I'll talk about our main characters. So Shinra is our main character. He's pretty cool. He has red beady eyes, so he looks kind of creepy. He has these sharp teeth, and he smiles when he's nervous. He has this like tick that whenever he's nervous, his like muscles in his face get all tense, and it like makes him give like this like really creepy Joker smile, and that puts him into a lot of trouble in the show, as well as his past life when his family died in this fire, and nobody wanted him because, you know, after your family dies, you're supposed to look kind of depressed. You know what I mean? He didn't really give off that vibe with the Joker look, you know what I mean, and red beady eyes. So nobody wanted him, and because of that, he wants to show off that he's a hero and a good guy. And that's kind of where his goals and aspirations are. He wants to look good in front of people and show off that he is a good person, so he joins the Fire Force to fight the Infernals and the demons. I'm going to compare Shinra to Deku from My Hero Academia because they're kind of similar. The difference is that Shinra is more interesting in his personality, and Deku is more interesting in his story. They're like flip-flopped on interesting. So Deku, his like personality is actually pretty bland if you actually look into it. Like, you actually like think about it, like, it's not that good. But what makes him interesting and compelling is that his backstory. He had no powers. He actually gets bestowed powers by the greatest superhero, All Might. So he was a kid that had these aspirations and goals to become a superhero. He just didn't have the physical capability and means to have those goals happen. So when, you know, All Might jumps into his life, sees those aspirations, and knows that he'll use his powers for good use, he's like, I'll give you my powers as long as you become the greatest hero and you can save people and become great. So it gives Deku a lot of responsibility to do great because he gets such an amazing gift for the thing that he wanted the most. As in for Shinra over here, he's kind of like I'm gonna be a hero to look good. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like a selfish goal in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a bad person. I know people will think I look bad, but I want to go ahead and look good in front of you guys and make sure that everybody knows that I'm a hero. I don't know. He's not shitty. He's not doing this for any, like, malicious reasons. It's just, it's not like the best hero or the greatest swordsman or the Hokage or anything like high. He just wants to be a hero and look like a hero and for people to see that he's a hero. I don't know. It's just, it's not that compelling for the audience members or myself. Like, I'm a part of the audience, so it's just, I wish there was something better. I wish there was something more for him to drive for. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I'm a hero. The very first scene of the show, he actually saved somebody, and technically he is a hero because of it. So I'm like, dude, you can go take a nap now. You got this shit done already. You can go home. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do anything more now. Maybe I'm wrong here. It just doesn't seem that great. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem that great of an aspiration, as well as the fact that it doesn't give the audience members to look forward to anything for him to achieve. It's not like, for example, Naruto was kind of the same thing. He wanted to look good. You know what I mean? He wanted to feel good. He wanted to become respected, so he wanted to become the Hokage because he was the most respected person. But in that case, Hokage is really fucking hard to get to. You know what I mean? That is if you get that thing, you deserve the praise. As in just being a hero, you know, like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a great aspiration to go towards. I mean, technically, being a hero in real life, that's a good thing to strive towards. It's just, you know, strive to, but the thing is that for a show, just saying, I want to be a hero, that's like, whatever, bro. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the other characters in the show. There's Obi, which is the captain, Captain Obi, and he's cool because he has no powers, and he's a captain, which is pretty interesting, because most captains, because there's multiple fire forces, kind of like, you know, fire stations or whatever, but he has no powers, and he has to outwit these demons and infernals to actually win the battle, as in a lot of other characters in the show can just kind of plow their way through a situation, just kind of muscle their way and beat demons because they're more powerful than them, as in Obi has to outwit, outsmart, he has to use technique and cunning to win, so he's a cool character in my opinion. There's Arthur, Shinra's rival. He uses like a laser sword, he's like a Jedi basically in the show, and he's kind of like, he's really stupid in the show. Like, he's kind of actually absurdly stupid, and he has this kind of funny quirky thing about him where if he believes more that he's a knight, like a knight, like sword and armor knight, and he becomes stronger. It's really goofy, but he's supposed to be like the rival for Shinra, and he just doesn't come off as like a rival whatsoever in the show to me. He's like really goofy and kind of dumb. He's more of like just a character to kind of like banter with Shinra. He's not like a really like a person that they are competing, like he's competing with. It's kind of, I don't know. He's an okay character. I forget the second in command, underneath Obi. It's kind of like his, like, it's his second in command. I forget what his name is, but he has glowy yellow eyes, and he basically shoots with a pistol. He's kind of like the uptight anime character that he doesn't laugh. He doesn't really, you know, the uptight guys that just never smile, and we're serious all the time. No smiling. It's all about duty. You know, he's that character. All the girls in this show, especially on the main Fire Force team that we're watching, they're kind of like mostly for fan servers. There's Maki, which I think is my favorite girl out of the bunch. Just because she's like this muscular chick. She's actually kind of like, she's very broad, and when she fights, she beats the shit out of people. Like, she like breaks bones and snaps people, and she's like the Rock Lee of the show, I guess you'd say, because it's all like fist fighting and things like that. So she has cool powers because she can kind of transform fire into these cute little, I don't even know what they are. They're like little fire creatures that are all cute looking. So she can kind of turn fire into something that's not dangerous. So she's interesting enough, and she has this kind of like wizard hat that makes her look cool. So I like her as a character. But the other two girl characters are straight up fan service. Like, there's like actually no reason for both of them to be in this show. They're I don't even remember their names. There's one that is a nun. She's like the typical like cutesy innocent chick. in animes that has a really soft voice and she talks like really light and everything. And there's no backstory in any of these characters that we're talking about, which is kind of weird. Normally, within at least the first 2 seasons, you would get some sort of backstory for the characters, like you know their aspirations and their goals. To be honest with you, I don't know about their family, their past, their childhood, present, their goals now, why they're on the Fire Force. I have no clue. I have no clue. They don't tell me this in the show. And for 2 seasons, I feel like they would have planted the seeds for that. You know what I mean? For me to at least be like, oh, I kind of know where they're coming from and why they fight for truth and justice and things like that. I don't know anything about any of the characters, maybe other than Shinra. Shinra's like the only one that I kind of get, and it's not even that great of a goal. Nobody else has any aspirations they've even said. They're just kind of on the team. You know, and I don't know. It's just kind of weird that they go that way. But yeah, so the other 2 characters, one's a nun, because I said that, you know, there's a religious group. They need a nun on the team so that when they fight these demons and they kill them, she can pray for the soul to go to heaven. That's about it with her. Like, I can't tell you any more about her. She just has big breasts and looks like the cute, innocent type girl. Then there's the other chick. God, what is her name? Okay, let me look up her name. Okay, the nun that I just talked about, her name was Iris, and then Tomoki is this other chick. Now, Tomoki is straight up the fan service character, because what she does, there's a running joke on the show, every time she falls or hits anything, her clothes just fall off of her. Like, it's like unnatural how it happens. But yeah, that's the running joke. It happens like so many times in the show that it kind of starts becoming unfunny. And at first it was kind of funny, and I know they're just trying to show off. They're like, oh, the teenagers will like this. Now, I get it, but it sometimes gets in the way of the actual storyline. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I actually will lie to you kind of on what's going on. But once you hear what I say and you actually see what happens in the show, you'll be like, oh, I know what he's talking about now. But there's a villain that ends up killing children, like straight up killing children. Like, you watch him, like the audience watches him kill children. Like, you're like, oh shit, this is for real. And Shinra ends up fighting him, and during this fight scene, he ends up bumping into Tomoki multiple times, and her clothes keep falling off. So they end up turning like the tone of this particular fight from dark into like this goofy slapstick sort of bullshit. And I'm just like, dude, I'm a dude. I completely understand fan service. I like fan service. I like that shit. Getting some eye candy, watching that shit, great. I love it. Perfect. Anime, I like it. Problem is that I don't like it getting in the way of like really interesting and dark tonal moments in a show. Like, I don't like it when it fucks other things up, you know what I mean? And that's just personally me. Maybe other people it doesn't bother them, but for me personally, I don't like it when they're just doing it to do it, and especially when it's getting in the way of more important things that's like storyline oriented, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, that's just me. Oh, okay, let me jump into the bad guys, considering I already talked about the main characters. So the bad guys are like, they're okay. They're not that big of a deal. The Infernals, because they have no personality and they're just like bloodthirsty monsters, they don't really have like I don't really care about them that much. Like, they're just kind of they're kind of like just things that are in the way of our main characters. It's kind of it. They're just kind of obstacles, I guess you could say. So for me, the Infernals are not that big of a deal. There's this other cultist group that like wants the Infernals to be around, that are like the opposite religious group. They instead of fighting the Infernals, they want the Infernals. And I don't know anything about them either. Because most the character, first thing, they don't give you enough time with the bad guys to really know what they're about. And the other thing is that their goals are kind of like, we want to set the world on fire again. And I might as well just play that song from Fallout, like, I don't want to see the world on fire, or whatever. God, I fucked that. Did I fuck that up? I might have fucked that up big time. Yeah, like that song, like, I don't want to set the world on fire. They're like, I want to set the world on fire. And it's like, that's such a stupid goal. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't like villains like that, you know? Yeah, I just don't like the typical we're gonna destroy the world type of villain. I like villains that have more of a dynamic sort of idea or goal for them in mind. And I think that's kind of the general problem with a lot of the characters in Fire Force, is just that nobody has, like, a interesting goal to achieve. Everything's kind of like very generic and kind of just broad. Like, we're gonna destroy the world. You're like, but why? And then you're like, I don't know. I want to be a hero, but why? Well, because I wanna. It's just everything's very just generic and kind of bland, in my opinion. Also, too, the show has very generic world building, and the reason why it's generic is because they don't really explain about what's going on beyond the Fire Force. You're kind of like the story and the people that you're following are in the Fire Force, and that's about it. Everybody else, you just don't get any perspective in this show. And I think that's actually that's a detriment to the show, because the show feels like modern day with people with superpowers. It doesn't feel like there's like a big apocalyptic event that changed the world as we knew it. And that's kind of what they explain in the show. They explain it in a way where you're like, oh, it's supposed to be like after this big fiery event, most of the world was scorched and uninhabitable and things like that, and there's these infernals now. Other than the infernals, everything seems basically the same. Like, there's no scorched anything. Tokyo, which is where the show takes place, by the way, seems normal. Everyone's wearing the same clothes. Everyone's doing the same shit. I think there's cars and vehicles and buildings and skyscrapers and all, like, just regular bullshit you'd see in normal society, but it just happens to be that the firefighters are also ninjas that can fight fire demons, and that's about it. It just doesn't seem like the apocalypse happened or anything like that. It's very, very generic. They'll for example, they'll have a point in the show where you get to see this junkyard, and people are taking stuff out of the junkyard, and they're like, "What is this?" And then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that was before the apocalypse or whatever that happened." And you're like, "Oh yeah, fuck, the apocalypse happened. That's right." And you don't realize it. You're like, it doesn't feel like that. So I remember when that happened, which is, I think it was like in season 2 or whatever. I was like, what do you? Oh yeah, that the demons and the fire and that shit. Yeah, that's a thing that happened, which is kind of that's wasted potential in this show. You could really get into how it changed everybody's lives, but they don't get into that. So I don't know. That's kind of they fucked that up, in my opinion. I know I've been shitting on the show, kind of, which I'm really not trying to shit on the show. The show's actually okay. It's like a C+ show, in my opinion, and that's not a bad thing. That's above average in my books. I was a C student, so you know, it's above average in my books. But for me, it's just kind of like, other than the fight scenes, the good choreography, the way the punches feel in the show and how much weight there is to it, and that visceral feeling when they're fighting, and the choreography and the what would you call it, the style and animations and the music. By the way, the music's really good in this show. Whenever they have like a big fight scene, the music's very intense and it like gets you pumped to see the fight and things like that. Other than that, it's just like everything else is very generic, you know. And I like fight scenes, I like fan service, but that doesn't get me as invested in the characters as like a good storyline, a goal for a main character, the atmosphere and the tone, and the what would you call it? I was about to say ecosystem. That's not the word for it. The world building. If they made the world building better, and we got to see the perspective of some of the people without powers, and you know what's going on the outside world, not in Tokyo, and things like that, I think it would just be more interesting. It would get me more invested. It's just the only things that they really have going on is that Shinra is a good, you know, he wants to look good. They have like this one other thing that they have in that show. I can't spoil it for you because it happens at the end of the first season, so you kind of have to wait till then. I don't want to spoil that, but other than one particular goal, world building isn't that great. The characters aren't really developed that well. They all have their kind of goofy little niche things about them, quirky things and stuff like that. They're funny. The characters are funny. I think the show's very funny, and the banter between characters is actually pretty hilarious. But other than that, like the actual story and plot for the show, to drive the show, doesn't really feel there. And that could just be because the show is only 2 seasons right now. We don't have enough meat to chew on for us to really get perspective. But for me, it just seems like after 2 seasons, they would have the seeds planted in for their characters to like strive for something. But it doesn't seem to be that right now. And that's kind of a big problem for me when it comes to an anime show. So if you guys just want to veg out, like if you just come back home from work and you're like, damn, I'm fucking tired, you know what I mean? And I just want to eat a steak, drink a beer, sit out and veg and watch some fight scenes and good fan service, boom, this show's great for you. There's very little downtime. It's very actiony, like super actiony. There's always something going on. There's always some sort of shit moving on screen. But if you want more dynamic characters, you want more dynamic villains, you want world-building atmosphere, and you just want something a little more complex than just action, the show isn't going to do it for you. It's not groundbreaking. It's not anything that's going to pull at your heartstrings. It's just an okay show. It's like the 24 of animes, you know? It's nothing. You can kind of just turn your brain off and watch it and kind of be entertained. So that's kind of my thought on it. It could become the best show of all time, you know, if they start fleshing out the characters. It could be the worst show. It could get worse. I have no clue. But for now, for me, I give it a C+. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and do all of that YouTube business. And, you know, if you like these type of reviews and you like my content, please go ahead and subscribe. It is free. You don't have to pay anything for it. You get to go ahead and watch my content, and you'll get to see my content without having to look for my content. So that, you know, that works out for both of us. Also, too, if you disagree with me and you think this is like the best show of all time, or you think it's really bad, or whatever your comments are and your ideas are, throw it down in the comment section. I always reply to comments, so if you ever want to ask me a question, or if you just want to bicker about something, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I don't even mind if you try to diss me. I know I have a big nose. I got that in a comment the other day. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Do all that YouTube business, and see ya. Hey, you made it to the end. That means you must enjoy my content, so go ahead and love tap that subscribe button for me. And if you don't like my content, subscribe anyways. My videos are proven to make your schlong longer. Follow me on Parler if you want additional content updates, or if you want to interact with me personally. And join my BitChute channel for additional content. Thanks you guys, see ya.